What's up everyone, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Thanks for tuning in today. Today we're taking a look at another new release. Now this one has been out for a little over a month, I think. And I know it seems like I sit on new releases, but sometimes I like to wait for the hype and the fervor for a fragrance to die down. And I think when that smog clears, you can see a little bit more easily the truth about a fragrance without getting caught up in, especially if you stay up to date on other people's opinions of a fragrance, you don't kind of get caught up, by the current and by maybe an effusive attitude towards the fragrance. Not to say that there's a huge attitude towards this fragrance. The one in question is a Givenchy release. It is Givenchy Gentleman Society. So when we come back, we're going to take a closer look at this new release, talk about some of the big changes in the formula. Got that and more coming up, so stay tuned. Welcome back everyone. Really happy that you could stop by and check this one out. It's a brand new release by Givenchy. Now this one was hyped quite a bit prior to it finally being released into public hands, and the overall consensus has been pretty positive. The fragrance in question is Givenchy Gentleman Society. And if you don't know much about the Gentleman line, there have been quite a few really good flankers that have been produced. This particular bottle that I'm holding up is the last flanker that was produced, and it is Gentleman Givenchy Reserve Privé, which is one of the absolute best that they have come out with. If you like a boozy, smooth, lightly sweet iris, then this is something that you'll really appreciate. It's actually very popular, and for good reason. It's a great fragrance. Now, as for the latest flanker, they have changed it up quite a bit, not only in the look of the presentation, but also in the formula. Now, we'll talk about that here in just a moment, but first, let's check out that presentation. The front of the box is silver with the logo embossed. It says Gentleman Society in black, eau de parfum, and Givenchy at the bottom. 100 ml, 3.3 fluid ounces. So it is an EDP concentration. The left and right side of the box are solid black with no information. And the back of the box, although it looks blank, it actually has a couple stickers along with some packaging information near the bottom there, and the website, givenchybeauty.com. The bottom of the box has the batch code and ingredients listing, the UPC, and some other stickers. On the very inside of the lid of the box, there's a QR code that says Join the Gentleman Society. The theme of this bottle is silver and black. There is a black lacquered look about the bottle, and the silver Givenchy logo is actually raised to kind of a point on the front of the bottle, and it looks fantastic. The biggest visual difference in presentation is the way that the logo looks, and I really like that change up, that switch up of the logo. The fact that it comes to kind of a sort of a point here so that you can feel it with your finger. It looks great overall. I think that's a positive change, and I really like how classy that black lacquered bottle looks. It puts me in mind of the original Gentleman Givenchy, the EDP, the eau de parfum. The way that it's all black to the very bottom, just like this is all black until you hit that see-through glass. It's just a very, very posh kind of look, like you spent some money. One key difference on the Reserve Privé, the last flanker, you have the logo in gold on the back of the bottle, and there's nothing on the back of the bottle of Society. So that's the presentation. Overall, I'd say they did a fantastic job. I give them an A for that. Not that I'm rating them based on a school grading, but I give them an A because it's really, really nice looking. I always like that bottle look. But just to add that continuation of the black to the bottom, then having that silver metallic-like logo be raised, just gives it even more of an air of kind of exclusiveness and a bit of aristocracy. And that's, I think, important specifically to the crowd, the target audience. What is the target audience? Well, if you watch the commercial, which I'll put here for your benefit, you see a bunch of younger people. One could even say that previous Gentleman Givenchy fragrances are appealing more towards the mature kind of crowd. So Society then would be their answer for the younger crowd. So that's kind of their target audience. What is it really in terms of how it smells? Well, let's first talk about the formula. What are the notes that make up Gentleman Givenchy Society? Givenchy Gentleman Society features top notes of Guatemalan cardamom and French sage, with heart notes of Haitian vetiver, Uruguayan vetiver, French Narcissus Absolute, and Madagascan vetiver, resting on a base of Bourbon Vanilla Absolute, Australian Sandalwood, and Himalaya Cedar. So there you have it for the formula. Did you notice one thing, though, that seemed like it was kind of sort of missing? Well, if you said iris, you're absolutely correct. And previous flankers and the original Givenchy Gentleman, there was the note of iris, and thereafter they've used iris, blue iris, orris root, orris concrete, orris butter. All of those are different facets, or pretty much similar facets of the note of iris. And yet in this particular fragrance, there is none. What do we have instead? Well, we've got cardamom and sage in the top. We've got 3 kinds of vetiver from 3 different places. Now keep in mind, it does matter where these components come from. So in Uruguay, the vetiver is going to be a little bit different than it is in Madagascar. So we've got 3 kinds of vetivers: cedar, sandalwood, and of course, bourbon vanilla. So now that we know the components of the fragrance, what does it smell like? One thing I've always appreciated about these presentations is that the aperture is white, and white against black is very easy to see. So you don't have to, like, if you're in a darker room, you don't have to look to make sure you're not spraying yourself in the eyeball when you spray your fragrance. Spray a couple there to show you what it sprays like. I'll get a little bit further back. So fantastic atomizer as per usual for the Gentleman Givenchy line. Atomizer is great. The fragrance overall, and I say this in all seriousness, this is going to be one of my top contenders for fragrance of the year so far. I really like this. And surprisingly to me, the omission of the note of iris is actually a positive in this case. Although in the background, it feels like there's this light iris, kind of iris-esque. That's the brilliance in the perfumer and bringing these notes together to give kind of a reminiscent of the previous DNA. It's kind of like a nod to the iris in the previous iterations, but Society definitely stands on its own with no need of iris. So we're kind of sort of seeing that trend of sweet fragrances continue with this fragrance. So that combination of sandalwood, which is milky, creamy, woody, and there is a bit of sweetness in there, blends so seamlessly with the bourbon vanilla, which is where we're getting more of that sweetness. You've got cardamom in the top, which is creamy and nutty of its own accord. So we've got, creamy and nutty and slightly sweet on the top, and creamy and lightly sweet on the bottom. So this fragrance is full of creamy, sweet goodness, but that doesn't detract from its overall quality, its tonal quality, and it's not overly sweet. To me, Society is the perfect happy medium when it comes to just the right amount of sweet for a signature scent, not for a cold weather fragrance that's kind of spicy oriental. That's not what this fragrance is. The reason the logo looks different, the bottle looks a little bit different, and the formula is obviously different with the omission of iris is Givenchy is setting Society up to be its own kind of standalone flagship fragrance for the younger generation. Now, for those who aren't necessarily familiar with the previous flankers of Gentleman, which are a little bit older, a little bit more old money style as opposed to new money style. I like that idea. It's infusing a kind of energy in the line that hasn't really previously been there. So I like that very much. I think that's a positive, not only in the kind of flashy style of the logo on the front of the bottle, but also the overall smell and tonal quality. So this opens with that sweet, lightly creamy, nutty cardamom with a little bit of spice added by the sage, blends seamlessly into that very dry yet extremely elegant heart of vetiver. You've got vetiver and then French Narcissus Absolute. Now, Narcissus, as you can see in this media here, it's a white floral note, but it is not a floral smell. French Narcissus actually has kind of a musky, woody leather component to it. The longer it sits and the way that it's fused in certain fragrances can kind of come across like damp hay that goes perfectly. It adds a little bit of density and weight to what is typically a lighter vetiver accord. So you've got three kinds of elegant vetiver, this hay-like, musky narcissus. Fully encompassing everything is this wonderful, sweet, creamy, vanillic note with a bit of woodsy cedar and that Australian sandalwood. I absolutely enjoy how this lays on my skin and how warm the tonal quality gets the longer it's there. The projection of this as an EDP, as an eau de parfum concentration, is so good. It mirrors that of typical eau de toilettes that are a lot more loud than their EDP flanker counterparts. What kind of weather to wear it in? Really, again, all kinds of weather. It's a year-round fragrance. I don't think I would be remiss in saying that you can wear this in the heat of summer, but it's definitely not going to be a high heat fragrance. But in summertime, it's definitely going to open up quite a bit more and breathe quite a bit more and give you just a bit more of that scent bubble that you're looking for. In terms of date night, it has that seductive, yummy, come hither kind of pull to it and attraction, so it's definitely going to be aces for the date night. Absolutely yes to date night usage and everyday usage. That's the style of the fragrance, and I'm really happy to see this is the direction that Givenchy is going with this wonderful line. They're definitely doing it a solid with this release. Of course, it's quite pricey right now as it's a new release. Retail, it's 130 plus bucks for a 100 ml bottle. Givenchy is another one of those brands that seems to retain the value of the fragrance, so it doesn't get greatly discounted, but it gets a pretty decent discount, 30 bucks or so, which is really good. And so you can snag that up at a discount if you want to wait. But to me, for me, in my opinion, I think it's well worth the price. Well, guys, that's it for my first impressions of this Givenchy Gentleman's Society. I think it's a fantastic entry into the Gentleman canon, and I really appreciate the direction that they're taking the fragrance and can't wait to see what else they do with it. But I think they definitely have reinvigorated the line with this release. Thanks so much for stopping by to check out my first impressions video. As always, thank you so much for your continued support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video review.